right, this is obviously the toughest part of the program with that heavy lunch, but we're going to soldier on here. Inquire with our bailiff. Do we have our jury of 8 back?
They're being brought in.
Okay. So court will come to order. All right, members of the jury, come on down. Welcome back. Let's all rise again for our esteemed panel of jurors here. Please be seated as you come in. We're standing for you and your service. All right, please be seated, everyone. Members of the jury, welcome back. I hope you had a restful lunch. We've covered a lot of ground, but now we're ready to begin with the defense's case. And so with that, unless there's anything to take up, defense may call their first witness.
Your Honor, we call J.T. Real Muto.
All right, with Mr. Real Muto, if you could raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony about to give in this matter before the court to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do, Your Honor.
Thank you. You can have a seat. Please state your...
Apologize for my hat.
I apologize for a quarterback hat there. If you could state your name for the record.
It's Jerome Terrence Real Muto.
Proceed, counsel.
Thank you, Your Honor. Now, Mr. Remuto, we're going to go with the issue that's a little fresher on everybody's mind since we just saw Mrs. Gambini's testimony. Is her personality on the stand generally what you dealt with at work?
Well, I can say that she's colorful and she's polite at times. But yes, I'm used to what you guys have seen today. I am.
Okay. And being that you're in a garage atmosphere with mechanics, is her personality versus what we saw today versus what you see in the garage, is it any different at the garage and at work?
Well, she no longer works for me, but to answer your question, during her tenure with me, it's pretty much as you've seen today.
Okay. And you would have interacted with her regularly when she worked for you?
That's correct.
And she worked for you for how long?
It was just around 20 years, yes.
Okay. And was that an accurate reflection of her personality, what we saw here today, for how you've interacted with her in the last 20 years?
Well, that is an accurate, tone and approach that I've experienced in communicating with her, with Ms. Gambini.
And I apologize, my screen just changed on me again. Now, if you could...
Seize this man, bailiff. Seize this man.
If you could, and Judge, I'm having just a minor technical issue here.
Legal pads still work.
Legal pads do still work. Now, if you could tell me a little bit about yourself, tell the jury about yourself.
Well, as I mentioned, my name is Jerome Terrence Real Muto. People call me JT. And I was born and raised here. I have a wife of 38 years, and we have 2 beautiful daughters. I started Real Muto Restoration 35 years ago, and I'm the owner, proprietor. That's my pride and joy. That's my baby. So I'm used to having on a work shirt, my sleeves rolled up, and either working on one of those beautiful vehicles or assisting one of my staff. Currently, I have 3 locations. I started with 1, and is that enough, or do you want me to go on?
No, I'd like you to go through and walk us through kind of how you've built this business to what it is today.
Okay. And so when I started out, my goal was to locate rare vehicles in different stages of repair. And for those that needed a little work, I had the talent and skill to work on them in preparation for sale.
You Your Honor, I'd like to object. Is this going to be a narrative, or are we going to do question and answer?
The objection is to
It's
narrative?
Yes.
All right. At this time, that'd be overruled, but you can finish your answer, sir.
So just, I guess, to expedite the process, that's how my business started. It was just a sales component, and then as it matured and grew, it was one location, which I call my flagship location. As it grew, I expanded to service because I wanted to, instead of sending repairs and those types of things out to other vendors, I wanted to hire competent and passionate people in-house to do that work. And so I did that. As the business grew, we opened 2 other locations.
And tell us how you've developed and fostered your clientele and your customer base over the years.
So, as I mentioned, these are rare vehicles that we work with, not the ones you'll see on a CarMax lot. And so it takes a lot of effort. So I would attend trade shows and travel to, wherever a vehicle might be available that's rare, that may be in demand ultimately, with a little tender love and care. And so that's how I developed my it's a niche business. There aren't a lot of people who have the resources or the focus on these types of vehicles because they're not to be put on the road every day. They are like trophies. And the vehicle that was destroyed in this matter, that was my pride and joy. So that's kind of how my business was started, what our focus was and is. It's a very small circle of customers that we have developed a rapport with over the years, and so that's my company.
In dealing with that small circle of customers, is reputation something that's important to you?
Well, it's critical. It's crucial. There's people who bring their vehicles to my shop or one of my 3 shops. We need to assure them that they are going to receive quality care, quality service, and expertise. And so I have this thing. It's called no compromise. And what that means is we don't compromise our dedication to the work, our commitment to excellence, and our customer service.
And you hear the term in the retail world that the customer is always right. Is that something that applies to your business as well?
100%. With a caveat that part of what we do is people come to us with these rare vehicles and they may need some type of service or repair that they're not familiar with. And so we will share with them what our recommendations are. And we will have a conversation and communication with them. And we must get approval from them in writing as to their agreement to the recommendation. And sometimes they may not agree, but customer service requires that we take an appropriate professional approach to that communication. And that's critical, that's crucial, because there are others, not a lot, but there are other companies that would love that business. And so if you have the option of coming to my business and receiving these services with great customer service, or going here, receiving the same service, but being belittled or cursed at, or feeling that you did not receive the type of care that you
Your Honor, I'm
would
going
want.
to object again. This is narrative, and he's not even answering the question asked at this
All right,
point.
let's point on this sustain. Let's break it up, counsel.
Mr. Ilmuto, in talking about reputation, in dealing with customers and that relationship, is the chief mechanic somebody that plays a role in maintaining and dealing with those relationships?
Yes, chief mechanic is in charge of that service department. Because I have 3 locations now, I can't be in all 3 locations. That makes that chief mechanic position that much more important than it was when I first opened my business. So yes.
So what would the chief mechanic's role in being face-to-face or interacting with your customers be?
They serve in place of me at times. They interact directly with those customers. They receive feedback. They provide information. And they resolve issues if and when they arise.
Okay. And we talked for a minute, you mentioned that Mrs. Gambini had worked with you for 20 years, 20 plus years. Tell us how that relationship started and kind of walk us through just briefly the history of how you hired her.
As I mentioned, I still attend trade shows, not as much as I used to when I opened the business, but I met Ms. Gambini at one of those trade shows. My wife and I traveled to one, and when we met, I could tell she was passionate about this industry. And I saw a lot of myself in her, and as you saw, she can express a lot in a short period of time, and so we were able to cover more in an hour than I probably could cover with most people in 6 hours. And so after that interaction, I invited her to join my company. And at that time, I only had one location, and I had an apprenticeship program that teaches people and gives them the resources to become certified mechanics. And so I invited her to join my team and to be trained beyond where she was, so that she could apply that passion at an even higher and greater level. And so that's how we started.
So that's how you started. And over the next 5 years, you helped her in an apprenticeship become an ASE certified mechanic.
That is correct.
Did you ever have any complaints about the quality of her work?
No, her work was fantastic. No complaints about the quality of her work. As I mentioned, she was and is, as I understand, probably still is passionate about this industry. So, no, sir.
Now, there were some questions whether she, as a woman, could physically handle some of the lifting and some of the heavier tasks in the garage. Is that fair that at times she had to get help?
Well, yeah, sometimes she needed help, sometimes I needed help. It wasn't gender specific. There's some, yes.
Yeah, but you didn't hold that against her being a woman and working in kind of a male industry, did you?
Not at all. My chief mechanic, as she stated, Ms. Gwen, she was there for decades and would have still been there, but she retired. And so she held some of those same duties and responsibilities as all of the mechanics.
And Chamberlain, Miss Gwen, she would have been Mrs. Gambini's boss.
That's correct, before she retired, correct.
And tell the jury who Jimmy Willis is.
So Jimmy Willis, she is my office manager at my flagship location where this incident occurred. And she's been with me almost as long as Ms. Gambini has been with me.
Okay, so all three of these women have worked with you for a long time.
Correct.
Now, talking not about the quality of her work, but issues as an employee. Did you ever have any issues with Mrs. Gambini as an employee?
Yes.
Okay. Tell us about, did you ever have any issues with her dealing with other employees?
I did, from time to time, yes.
Okay, tell us, if you could, what the nature of those interactions would be.
Well, sometimes, when you're in one of the repair bays, there's disagreement as to what should be done, how long it's taking for things to be done. And, it happens, but there's a way to deal with everything. And so from time to time, I was called upon to intervene when she was a little too curt. She would use profanity toward other staff members, curse at them, yell at them, and so those are things that were not productive for the type of environment that we wanted for our staff, because we want to keep good people. So those are some things that I had to speak with her about a few times during her tenure.
And you heard Mr. Helm's testimony earlier that there's a distinction between yelling and being yelled at.
That's correct.
Were there circumstances where she would yell at other co-employees, other mechanics?
Yes, I mean, we all raise our voices in the repair area, but there's a difference, as you said, and as Mr. Helm said, there's a difference between yelling something to be heard and yelling at you in a demeaning way. And so in those situations where Ms. Gambini was yelling at one of the staff members or cursing at one of the staff members, that's when I would be called upon, or Ms. Gwen would be called upon to intervene.
Okay. Did you ever have any issues with Mrs. Gambini and any customers?
Yes.
Okay, tell us about that.
Well, it wasn't like it was a million times, but one time is too many in this type of industry, because you get one chance to make a first impression. And so the one incident that comes to mind is that there was a customer, a loyal customer, and had come in and it was a timing ignition issue that needed assessment, evaluation, and some sort of plan on how to address it. And I think, as I understood it, that Ms. Gambini had one opinion about it, and the customer who owned the vehicle had another opinion, and the customer was frustrated, I'll say, that her approach, she was curt, she was abrasive, and was deemed to be unprofessional. So that was one of the situations where I needed to step in.
Okay, did you ultimately write her up for that incident?
Yes, that went into her file.
Did you ultimately make her apologize for that incident?
Yes, she and I had a conversation, and she actually agreed with me and understood that that was not the proper way to handle that situation. And so she did apologize to that customer. Unfortunately, we were able to keep that customer.
Now, the issues we're here about today is in the spring of 2022, Chamberlain Gwynn let you know that she was getting ready to retire. Is that fair?
That's correct. That's correct.
And walk us through, in your process of finding somebody to replace Chamberlain, what's your decision kind of looked like in evaluating people and in making a decision of who was going to replace her?
So, as I mentioned, this is my business. I built it from the ground up. And so these types of really important decisions, I make those decisions. I may receive feedback from others if I choose, but in this specific situation, I looked at the people available. Fortunately, Ms. Gwynn gave me a window of opportunity and time. She gave me a heads up that she was going to retire, so it gave me some time to assess what my options were. And Mr. Peter Alonzo was someone that I'd known for years, and there was some discussion about his certification. He is ASC certified, so he's certified mechanic. And as I looked at the options that were in the best interest of my business, in our 3 locations, someone who could be either at the flagship location or one of the satellite locations, if I'm not there, I felt that I could trust him. And he came with great references, and as I mentioned, I knew him for a while, and so it was an easy decision for me once I looked at the totality of my options.
Did you consider Mrs. Gambini for the role?
I did.
Ultimately, what were your concerns or hesitations about putting her in the chief mechanic position?
Well, it wasn't a matter of comparing her to someone else, to say you have 5 points over here, 4 over there. It was, at the end of the day, I only looked at qualified candidates in terms of being certified and my understanding of their ability who had the passion that I have for this industry, had the ability to do the work that we do, and then the next step is to feel comfortable that if I'm not there, that the tone, the approach, the instinct in communicating with our customers and our staff will be that I would apply. That's what I used.
Were her issues in the past with co-employees and customers something that you considered as a detriment to her in that role?
They were.
Did you take into account any of your other employees' impressions of her or interactions with her?
Well, I had no choice to, because as I mentioned, it's not just whoever would fill that role would not only interact with the customers, but serve as an example for our staff. And so you lead by example. So yes, that was a strong consideration, the feedback and the interaction that I had with her and other employees, and that I observed between her and other employees. Her employees enjoyed working with her for the work that she did, but sometimes they did not enjoy the interaction. And all of that comes into play.
Did gender play any role in your decision at all?
Absolutely not. As I said, I'm married. I have 2 daughters, so women run my house. And as you know, I had a very qualified, competent woman for 20 years serving as the chief mechanic at my flagship location. So absolutely not.
Now, there have been some comments made today that when you lost a game in pool to her, that you said you didn't like losing to a broad in pool. Is that a conversation that you recall?
It's not. I don't recall making such a derogatory statement. I heard Mr. Helms refer to that as well. That's just not me. And if Ms. Gambini to this day believes that that's the case, then I will apologize to her, because that's just not who I am. It's not. It's not, and it's not.
And over the years, y'all would play this game of pool every year for a free day off at a Christmas party. Is that correct?
Every year.
And she would beat you every year.
And she's good. She's good.
And that's part of it, that she gets a day off, or whatever employee would have gotten a day off if they would have beaten you in that game of pool.
Whoever. That's just part of building morale. It's something that I thought to do years ago, and it's grown, and it's kind of a tradition. Not only to play the game, but it became a tradition for her to, beat my tail. So.
Now, after you hired Mr. Alonso, what was Mrs. Gambini's reaction to that?
Well, I was surprised, because it was very negative, and she became hostile directly towards me about the job, and I was somewhat taken aback, because we had a healthy line of communication, regardless of how curt she may be. Our line of communication was always open, so I was really surprised. I told her that she told me that she would like to be considered, and she was. And like I said, I was disappointed, but I guess I should be surprised at how she responded.
Were there any other actions during that window that gave you cause for concern as for her as being one of your employees?
Well, you mean before I made the decision on who the new person's going to be?
Yes, sir.
Well, I became aware of, some social media activities that she was engaged in that were, in my opinion, detrimental to the reputation of this company that I built from the ground up. And so that really concerned me. I was more than concerned, I'll say that.
Were there social media posts before you ultimately terminated her from the job?
Yes, because
Okay.
I actually had to, while she was still working for me, she and I sat down, and we talked specifically about my disappointment and my hurt, that she would make statements specifically about me and about my company, negative statements, on social media.
Did she deny that she made those statements to you?
She did not.
Did she admit that she put negative information on social media about your company?
She did.
Did you have concerns about whether customers would see those tweets and how it would affect your business?
I did, and beyond just what they would see, it's how they would receive that. Because if you have an employee in your service department responsible for tightening screws and bolts, and you're going to put that vehicle back on the road with your loved ones inside, you need to know that the people that are going to be under the hood and underneath that vehicle aren't trying to sabotage the business. We couldn't afford that.
And what ultimately made you decide to terminate her?
It was just that I could not, I did not have confidence that she would do what's in the best interest of our company, whether it be repairing a vehicle that's going to be on the road, communicating with our staff, communicating with our customers, and that she was openly and aggressively spewing negative information on social media about the company. We can't survive with that type of internal toxicity.
And after you terminated her, did she continue to tweet about the company and tweet about you personally?
As far as I know, she did.
Tell us what happened with the Applebee's incident.
Well, so every Tuesday, for the past I don't know how many years, me, my wife, and our 2 teen daughters, we would go to the local Applebee's for dinner. It's almost like that show Cheers. They knew us when we came in. And so, never had an issue going to or from Applebee's and enjoying a meal. And then this one situation, people came in and they were shouting, they were yelling, and it was directed, as I saw it, it was directed at me and my family. I couldn't hear exactly what they were saying, but it was directed at our family. That's the first time I'd ever experienced anything like that in my life.
And was there a subsequent event that happened following that at your home?
There was. We live in a very, in a small subdivision neighborhood. You kind of know every car. You recognize the cars that are coming in and out, and really quiet. And we've lived there since our first child was born. And then this one evening, I'm with my daughters, and these people come right near our house. Similar to the situation at Applebee's. They're yelling, they're chanting, and there's no one else on the street but me and my daughters at that time. No one else. And, so, I kind of put those two together, that they have to be related.
And so ultimately, did you do any more research into what that relation was, if they were tied somehow to Mrs. Gambini?
Well, I learned later from the police investigation that there was some correlation, as I understood it, between these negative tweets that Ms. Gambini authored and these people who we encountered at the Applebee's. And then, I don't know if it was the same people, but it was the same experience that my family experienced in our neighborhood.
And ultimately, you mentioned a police report, police investigation. There was an incident that happened at your store on June 17th, 2022, correct?
That's correct.
And what was it that happened at your store?
Well, I wasn't there. And so the information that I have, most of it comes from my manager, and because she was there, she was on duty at the time, and the police report. But I did arrive back at my flagship location, and we had installed these glass panels on the roof a few years ago. And according to the information I received, people climbed up on the roof, and their weight was on those glass panels, and they fell. They broke and they fell, and then they fell onto the showroom floor, where I had my 1965 Shelby coupe, that's my baby. I sometimes would travel with that and display it to advertise the business. So that's my understanding of what happened that day. There were some customers on the showroom floor, and at least one of those customers was injured by that incident.
And Mr. Real Muto, we've previously marked this as Exhibit C. And Exhibit E.
Yeah, that's my baby. That's my baby.
Exhibit C is the coupe that we're talking about.
Yes, sir.
Tell us why that car's so special.
Well, look at it. That's talent right there. That's talent. That's a $1 million+ car. It's rare, and there are only a few in the world, and so I'm honored to have it in this condition. And so, yeah, that's my baby there.
And so, Exhibit E, what does that depict?
It's not. that's my baby. And that's how she was destroyed. That's how she was destroyed by those glass panels.
Does that show the damage to the vehicle that was caused by the panels falling from the ceiling?
It does. It does.
And what was the damage to the car itself?
So the hood was crumpled, and headlights. These are all original parts. And just by way of background, these types of vehicles, the parts have serial numbers on them. And that's part of how you can value these types of vehicles. Is if you can show original parts, that increases the value. And so the hood was crumbled, headlights broke, at least one of them was broken out, the other one was damaged, and there's other damage to the paint, because it's a custom paint job. You see the number 11, how it used to look. So a lot of damage. The hood alone would be $250,000.
Your Honor, I'm going to object to any monetary testimony. Nothing was produced pre-trial about the work of the vehicle, and he's not been qualified as an expert to talk about the cost.
Your Honor, if I could, Mr. Realmuto, how long have you worked in the automobile industry?
In this niche industry, 40 years.
40 years.
40 years.
And so you have 40 years experience in restoring vintage vehicles.
That is correct.
How many years have you been selling those vintage vehicles?
Maybe about 38 years.
Okay. You've told us that you deal in restoration, sales, repairs, you deal in trade shows. You've got almost 4 decades of experience in that area.
That's correct.
As part of that experience, would you know about the value of vehicles and the cost to repair them?
I would.
Would you know about the value of highly sought after collectors' rare vehicles like this and the cost to repair them?
I do.
Your Honor, we'd move to certify him as expert based on his experience in the field.
You want to voir dire the witness at all, counsel?
Your Honor, again, there's not any documentation to substantiate his testimony, so I understand he may be an expert, but again, there's nothing to document, other than his testimony, there's nothing to say how much this car is worth. You could say it's worth $5 million. Doesn't make it so. We don't see it. How do we know it's real?
Well, I wouldn't say
All
it's
right,
just
so
5 million.
to that. Hold on a second there. I'll just say that I believe that, as established by defense counsel, the arguments are going to go to the weight this jury should give his testimony, if any, and not to his admissibility. And so, counsel, you can proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. We talked about $250,000 being the cost to repair this vehicle. Is there also a diminishment in value of what the vehicle would sell for now that it has non-original parts and that it's been damaged in the past?
Yeah. Yes, because as I mentioned, original parts more valuable. Damage to a vehicle, even if you're able to make it look as close to this as possible, it still has to be sold as damaged. So that significantly, in my experience, would significantly lower the value on in the marketplace, because I've dealt with that. I've purchased damaged vehicles at different stages of repair, and that's how we made some of our money, is by making something like this look like my baby.
How much would that diminishment of value be, in your opinion?
Based upon my experience in the industry,
Yes, sir.
for almost 4 decades, close to $500,000. Because this is a vehicle that's worth more than $1 million.
Okay. And that's monetary damage. The actions of her tweets and the damage to the vehicles and kind of this entire scenario, have you incurred any other damages because of that?
Yes.
Okay. Tell us about that.
Well, as we talked about, this is a niche industry. And so our clientele is small. But when they want and need us, we're there. To have my flagship location, the ceiling collapse, customers injured, negative tweets from Ms. Gambini about my company and about me, all of those things impact when and whether the clientele I've worked so hard to build are going to come to my shop instead of one of the competitors. That's another way that this situation has impacted my business.
Now, Mr. Romuto, have you ever had anything similar to this happen in the past?
Meaning
The negative mentions on social media, kind of the drama, everything that's going on. Have you ever had any employee that's had reason to put you on blast, so to speak, on Twitter?
no,
Are there any other employees that you can think of that have expressed similar lines of frustration or disagreement to what Mrs. Gambini has expressed to you?
that's
Okay.
as we talked about before. That was part of my consideration, having nothing to do with her gender, as to who I would trust to be the face of my company when I'm not there.
Okay. Have you ever, in your company, have you ever had any negative press that would lead people to protest you for any other reason at all?
Before this, no.
Yes, sir.
Not that I'm aware of.
Mr. Romuto, how did you feel about terminating Mrs. Gambini?
Well, I mean, it was, I can't even say bittersweet, because there's nothing sweet about it. It was unfortunate because I felt like we kind of grew this business together. When I brought her on board and we got her certified, and as I said, she's done great work. So, you hate to see good people go, but I didn't have a choice, because I could not put my customers in a position where they might not have confidence that the vehicle they trusted to me would come back to them like it should, or that they could be safe driving. I just couldn't afford that. So it was unfortunate. It is unfortunate, and I still wish her well.
But for her reaction to your hiring of Mr. Alonso, would you still want her as an employee today?
Well, I'd have to say no if she also sent out these.
Well, that's what I mean by the reaction.
I got you.
If she had not reacted in that manner on social media and had not been negative towards you in the press and expressed those opinions, and would you have continued to hire her, to let her work for you and to pay her and to retain her as a mechanic?
I would have. She's been promoted. She's received pay increases, and I had no plans to change that business relationship.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Romuto.
Thank you.
All right, any cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yeah, that's my baby right there.
Good afternoon, Mr. Romuto. I want to skip around a little bit, and since your counsel's covered so many areas, so I'm going to skip around a little bit. And I want to start with the car damage. I want to ask you about the situation at your shop that resulted in damages to what you've called your baby.
Yes.
Now, you don't have any evidence to show this jury that Miss Gambini was at the scene of that situation at your shop, correct?
That's correct. I wasn't there.
You don't have any evidence that she was in the background telling anyone what to do at the shop on the day of that situation occurred, correct?
Other than what the police investigation shows, that's correct.
Okay. And you don't have any evidence that Miss Gambini was the one who caused any damage to your baby, do you? She was not there, right?
I wasn't there, so I can't comment on whether she was there or not.
Okay. And the police concluded they didn't have any evidence that she was at the scene, correct?
I don't know what the police concluded.
Okay. We'll hear from the police. And you don't have any evidence that Miss Gambini ever even met with any of these protesters that came to your shop, do you?
No, I don't know what her relationship was or is with any of these people.
And now I want to move on to the situation at Applebee's. When you were at Applebee's, none of these so-called protesters used your name, did they?
That's correct. I never heard any of them say
No,
JT.
no one called out Real Moto sucks, did they?
You mean at the Applebee's?
At the Applebee's.
I didn't hear that phrase. I didn't.
Right. And none of the protesters at the Applebee's used my client Miss Gambini's name, did they?
I did not hear her name. That's correct.
And you didn't see Miss Gambini at Applebee's that day, did you?
That's correct. I did not.
And going to the home confrontation, when you were confronted at your home, no one ever used your name, did they?
I was really more concerned about my daughters, so I don't know if they said my name or not. I know they're in front of my house.
Okay, and no one ever used Miss Gambini's name, did they?
Same answer. I was more concerned about my daughters, but as I sit here today, I don't recall having heard her name from those people shouting and yelling in front of my house.
All right, and you didn't hear them use your business name either, did you?
Same answer.
And we heard your testimony about the damage to your vehicle and your experience, and I think you referred to this as your baby, right?
That's my baby. That's my baby.
And despite the fact that that's your beloved baby, you don't have one single piece of evidence from any source to substantiate your damages and the total amount that you're asking from this jury, do you?
Yeah, this right here.
No, sir, I'm talking about the numbers, an estimate from any source. You don't have that to show the jury, do you?
Yeah, I'm a source.
I'm going to object as the non-responsive. I need you to answer my question, sir. Do you have any piece of paper with dollar amounts on them from any outside source showing as far as what the cost of the vehicle was? And I'm saying outside source, not you, sir. I've limited my question to outside source.
Not an outside source, but do you want the
No,
information?
you've answered my question. Thank you. So we're clear. Your baby, your $500,000 baby, you don't.
It's not a $500,000 baby. There's damage to the roof alone. It's $250,000. The
Yes.
depreciation is a $500,000.
Okay.
I just want to make sure we're on the same page, man.
All right. But again, despite the fact that you're claiming all these damages, you did not go out and get a piece of paper from an outside source to show them what this cost, correct?
Correct. I don't need it.
Okay. And as to these tweets, you don't have any copies of these tweets from Miss Gambini, do you?
No, I'm not that social media person. That information, as I shared a moment ago, the information I have about those tweets comes from the police investigation. I had no involvement with that.
And you didn't download anything or get your wife or your daughters, who are teenagers, I believe you said, to download these tweets and give them to your attorney because they offended you. You don't have anything like that, do you?
I don't, but she admitted that she did it.
Right, but I'm talking about the ones that you referred to.
That's the ones I'm talking about.
Okay. Yeah. But you don't, there's nothing to show the jury on these tweets, correct?
I don't have anything. That's correct.
So they were so important yet not important enough to print out, right?
I can't print out something I don't have.
Okay,
But
right.
I can rely upon her to look me in the eye after 20 years of working together and be honest and tell me, yes, I did it. And I included your name and I included your business name. She told me that, and I take her at her word.
Okay. And as you pointed out, Miss Gambini was a 20-year employee, right?
Correct.
And you were the person that hired her, correct?
That's right.
And you would agree with me that you only hired qualified people who show a genuine interest for what you do at Real Moto Automotive, correct?
And that included all. That's correct.
And there's no question, I think, in anyone's eyes that Miss Gambini had a genuine interest and passion for her work at Real Moto, correct?
I can't speak for anyone else, but I can speak for myself that yes, I believed and currently believe that she had a genuine interest and passion for what we did.
Right. And I think you would agree with your attorney. He told us in his opening statement that she worked for you for 20 years and she was a great employee, correct?
Her work was great.
And she was a master mechanic, correct?
Certified.
Right. And she was certified by the Automotive Service Excellence Group, correct?
That's correct. That's what our plan was when I hired her, and we got her there.
And you never wrote Miss Gambini up for any interactions she had with any other employees, did you?
Did I put anything in writing in her file?
Correct.
That's correct.
You never wrote her up or put anything in her file with regards to any interactions with you, did you?
No.
And the only time you ever wrote Miss Gambini up in the 20-year tenures with you was when she had the situation with the customer, correct?
That's the only time I put a document in her file. That's correct.
Right. And that customer, per your own testimony, was a customer that you kept, correct?
Because because I worked hard to do it. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you don't know of any customers that you lost because of anything on Miss Gambini's part, do you?
I do. I've talked with, like I told you, this is a really close-knit circle. And so I've spoken with several customers that have told me I'm going to wait until things settle down at your spot, JT, because I've heard some things.
Okay.
That's a loss for me.
All right. But again, none of them are here to testify, correct?
That's correct.
And it doesn't sound like they have left you. You're just talking to them about it. Is that your testimony?
Now, my testimony is if they were going to come last Tuesday, that's money I would have made last Tuesday. That's money I did not make last Tuesday and that I don't have now. That's a loss. I have to pay because I have to pay my employees every pay period. So that's a loss.
Okay. Are there any documents you brought to court today to show any loss? Okay. And there's no question. No, that's okay. You've answered the question. There's no question when Mrs. Gambini worked for you. You called her mouthy.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
You admit to that.
Yes.
And moving on, I understand based on your testimony that you hosted a pool tournament for your employees every year, and that the prize was an extra day off.
Yeah, that's what we talked about earlier. That's true. Yeah.
And it's fair to say, Mr. Romoto, that you don't like getting beat at pool, do you?
I don't like getting beaten at anything, but yep, don't like it. But as we talked about before, Miss Gambini, she beat me regularly at pool,
She beat you fair and square, didn't she?
fair and square.
And you didn't like losing to her, did you?
I don't like losing to anyone.
In fact, after she beat you for a couple of years in a row, you asked her to lose on purpose to boost the shop's morale, didn't you?
Yeah, we joked about that.
Okay. Did she know it was a joke?
You'd have to ask her. I know it was a joke for me, and I know that there was never any consequence.
That's how it always
For
goes.
her.
Yes, I understand, sir.
Kicking my butt.
And you, Mr. Helms, Mr. Harry Helms, you heard him testify earlier, correct?
Yeah, still
He's sitting right over there, isn't he?
works with
He
me.
still works for you, doesn't he?
That's exactly right.
Was he lying to this jury when he said, and I quote, that you, Mr. Romuto, said, "I hate losing to broads"?
I'm not calling him a liar. I testified about that a moment ago.
You
I
just don't remember.
No.
Okay. How would you feel if somebody called one of your daughters a broad? You think that's okay?
I don't.
Okay. And when Miss Gambini was working for you, she made $60,000 a year, correct?
In her job as a mechanic, that was the salary that she and every other mechanic, male or female, made in that job. Correct.
And the chief mechanic job that she was passed over had a salary of $100,000, correct?
The chief mechanic job at my flagship location had that salary.
Okay. And prior to the time that you hired this man, Mr. Peter Alonzo, to be the chief mechanic, you, in your own words to this jury, testified that you and Miss Gambini grew the business together, didn't you?
Me, her, and others. That's correct.
Okay. And it's also true that Miss Gambini mentioned to you more than once that she wanted to be the chief mechanic, correct?
Yes.
And you never even interviewed her for that job, did you?
I'm sorry.
You never even interviewed her for that job, did you?
No, there weren't. I didn't have any formal interviews for the job.
So you never even interviewed Mr. Alonzo?
I met with him. He was not an employee in my company, so we had to meet. I didn't have to meet Ms. Gambini because she and I have worked together for years. She expressed her interest in the job, so that was clear to me, and I made my decision as I described earlier.
Okay. So you met with Mr. Alonzo about the job, but you never met and interviewed Miss Gambini for the job, correct?
Right. I knew her interest, and I knew her qualifications, and I knew her work product because she worked for me for 20 years. Yes.
Right. And after you hired Mr. Alonzo, Miss Gambini came to you and asked why she hadn't been hired, correct?
Right.
And to be fair, you weren't surprised when your 20-year employee who you grew the business with, who had told you that she wanted to be the chief mechanic, came to you and asked you why in the world she didn't get the job that she was clearly qualified for. That didn't surprise you, did it?
It did not.
And when you had this conversation about why she had been hired, you heard Miss Gambini tell you that less than 10% of mechanics are women, correct?
Yeah, she said that, and didn't understand why, because I don't hire all mechanics in the industry.
And-
Just ones that work for me.
All right. And after she made this statement to you, you told others that you didn't like what this implies. Isn't that true?
That's exactly the point I was just making a moment
Right.
ago.
And what, sir, may I ask, did you think that a truthful statement about less than 10% of mechanics are women implies? Because it is a fact, isn't it, that less than 10% of mechanics are women? That's a true statement,
You
right?
want me to
Your Honor,
answer
we
that?
object to the relevance for the industry as a whole, that it doesn't have any bearing on these facts.
As to relevance, so rule. Proceed.
You want me to answer that?
Do you know if
Do you
less?
want me to answer your last question, Council?
Let me make sure I'm clear.
I'm
Do
clear.
you have an
I'm
understanding
clear on
as?
what you asked me.
Okay.
You want me to answer it?
Go ahead.
Okay. So, in that context, that's the whole point. Context is everything.
Okay, but I'm going to interrupt you because you're not answering the question, sir. The question is, are you aware that less than 10% of mechanics are women? That's my only question.
I've not researched it, but I wouldn't be surprised if that is the number.
Okay. And after your Class A mechanic, Miss Gambini, worked for you for 20 years, and after she told you she wanted the job, you hired a man, Mr. Peter Alonzo, for the position, correct?
I did, to replace a woman who I had put in that same position. So I
And you
contributed
paid,
to
I just
that
need you
10%.
to answer the question, sir. And you paid Mr. Alonzo more than you paid Miss Gambini, correct?
I'm sorry, what's the question?
You paid him more than you paid her, correct?
For different jobs.
Right. For the job she wanted, right?
You don't get paid for a job that you don't have.
Right. I understand, sir. My point is he got a salary of $100,000. She got a salary of $60,000. I understand they're different jobs.
He received the same salary that the female who was in that same position previously received. That's correct.
And after Miss Gambini made the statement to you that less than 10% of mechanics were women, you fired her, didn't you?
Chronologically,
Yes.
she made that statement. She was fired thereafter. She didn't,
Right.
She was not fired because of that statement.
But the fact, as you pointed out chronologically, is she made the statement, then she was fired, right?
Those things happened in that order.
That's what I thought. Yes, sir. And when you fired her, you didn't tell her you were firing her because her work was subpar, did you?
No,
You didn't tell her you were firing her because she was slow, correct?
she wasn't.
You didn't tell her she was being fired because of how she interacted with staff or customers, did you?
No, I didn't.
You fired her because she spoke up and she was mouthy. Isn't that true? I think the jury knows what's true. Pass the witness.
Can you redirect?
No further questions, Your Honor.
All right, you can sit down, sir.
Thank you. Can I get my hat back over?
Not in this one. We going straight to the next witness?
Yes, sir.
Okay, defense may call the next witness. Someone needs to wait.
Your Honor, we call Officer Jay Lynn to the stand.
Another hat. All right, sir, if you can raise your right hand. You solemnly swear or affirm the testimony about to give in this matter should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do, Your Honor.
Thank you. Could you state your name for the record?
My name is Jay Lynn.
Officer Lynn, who is your current employer?
I am a police officer for the Atlanta Police Department.
How long have you been employed by the Atlanta Police Department?
9 years now.
And prior to working for the Atlanta PD, had you been a police officer anywhere else?
I started my career as a police officer in New York City. I was an officer there for 5 years. I had the opportunity to come back to Atlanta, where I'm from, and work in a community that gave me so much as a child.
And now, Officer Lynn, I don't mean to offend you by this question, but unfortunately, it's something that we hear about in the news a lot. And so, during your career as a police officer, have you ever been reprimanded for any type of misconduct?
Never, ma'am.
Have there ever been any complaints made against you by any constituents alleging that you engaged in misconduct?
Not one. I take a lot of pride in what I do, and my record is pristine.
Now, Officer Lynn, we're here about an incident that occurred a while back at Real Real Muto Restoration. Do you recall that incident?
I do.
Were you the investigating officer?
I was, along with my partner, Officer Lauer.
And did you write a written report after your investigation?
I did.
Your Honor, may I approach?
You ready?
I'm going to show you what we previously marked as Exhibit A, officer. Will you please take a look and let me know if you recognize that document?
Yes, I'm familiar with this document.
And is that a true and accurate copy of the police report generated after your investigation of this incident?
It is.
All right, Officer Lynn, will you please tell us about how you became involved in investigating the incident at Real Muto Restoration?
I received a call from dispatch, it was just after 4 p.m., that there was a disturbance outside of Real Muto Restoration. My office, my partner and I were close to that location and arrived shortly thereafter.
What type of disturbance was reported to you by dispatch?
I was advised that there was a protest that was active at the time of the call, that customers of Real Muto Restoration were being harassed, and that there was just generally disorder outside of the business.
Did you personally report to the scene?
I did.
When you arrived on scene, what did you observe?
When we arrived on scene, the protest was no longer active outside the premises. What we did observe was a good deal of trash and rubbish that was strewn across the parking lot of the premises. It looked like there had been an active protest there, but we did not, when we arrived, we did not see any active protests outside of the premises.
Did you communicate with anyone who worked at Real Muto at that point?
Once we left our cruisers, we walked inside the premises and were approached by a manager by the name of, her name was Ms. Willis. And she was very scared. You could tell she was agitated. And at that point, she informed us that she believed there were protesters on the roof of the premises.
After Ms. Willis reported to you that she thought there were still protesters on the roof, what did you do next?
At that point, there was a fire escape on the side of the building. We went out and looked at the fire escape. There were no protesters that we could observe along the fire escape. We also stepped back from the building to see if we could observe any potential protesters on the roof. We could not see any protesters from the ground level where we were standing outside the premises at that time.
What did you do next?
After that, we walked back inside the premises, and as we were walking through the showroom floor, we observed a glass panel ceiling. And when we looked up, we saw two protesters that were peering down at us as we were looking up at them.
Once you spotted those protesters, what happened next?
Moments, it was even seconds after we observed them on the roof. They were wearing bandanas that covered their face, that were covered in skulls. In moments thereafter, two glass panels fell down from the roof and unfortunately struck one of the classic cars in the show.
Did anyone get injured?
There was a customer who was still inside the building at that time. That customer attempted to jump out of the way. My understanding is the customer was injured.
Now, after the glass collapsed, what did you do next?
We immediately were informed by Ms. Willis that there was an interior staircase where you could access the roof. So my partner, Officer Launer, and I drew our weapons, and made our way quickly up the stairs to the roof.
Were you able to apprehend any of the suspects at that point?
When we reached the door of the roof to access the roof, we announced our presence. We announced that we were armed. We observed 4 suspects that were along the outside perimeter of where the glass panels were. We immediately instructed them to get on their knees and raise their hands, and they were cooperative, and we took them into custody.
Did you interview or interrogate any of the folks who you arrested that day?
We did. At first, we were interviewing them together. Initially, they were uncooperative. 2 in particular were really agitated and disorderly towards us. At one point, one of them called us enablers, my partner and I. They said we were utilizing Gestapo tactics, and I did take some offense to that. I take a lot of pride in what I do from the city that I was born and raised in, and I do the job the right way, and I really took offense to those comments.
Officer Lynn, did they tell you what they believed you were enabling?
I'm not entirely sure, Counsel. My assumption is that they thought we were abusing our power as police officers, which, we certainly will not do that day, nor ever.
During your investigation, did you find out the reason why these folks were on site that day?
As the interview progressed, there were, as I mentioned earlier, 2 of the witnesses were more uncooperative and disorderly, and there were 2 sisters. And the sisters, the Greystone sisters, they seemed to be immediately remorseful in what had happened. And what they told us was they are gender equality activists, and they will peruse Twitter and search for hashtags like discrimination and inequality and breaking the ceiling. And that's how they learned about Mona Lisa Gambini's situation. And through those tweets, some from Mona Lisa Gambini herself, they were informed of this protest. And that's how they ended up being there that day.
So to make sure I understand, Officer, based on your investigation, at least 2 protesters told you that they were on site that day after reading texts from Ms. Gambini and arrived on site to a protest in support of Ms. Gambini. Is that correct?
Tweets.
Yes, sir. Sorry, tweets.
Yes.
Did anyone explain to you whether they had met or seen Ms. Gambini there that day?
During our interview of the suspects, I did ask, were there any other protesters? And a woman, Stacy Adams, who was a suspect, informed us that Mona Lisa was present that day, along with other people like her who are being trampled by the system.
So you were here just a moment ago when Mr. Real Muto was being cross-examined by counsel, and counsel indicated that the police investigation uncovered no evidence that Ms. Gambini was on site that day. Do you disagree with that statement?
I do.
So it's your understanding that witnesses said Ms. Gambini was there that day, correct?
Yes, specifically Stacy Adams.
Did you ever personally interview Ms. Gambini with respect to this incident?
I did.
And what did she tell you during that interview?
I met with her a few days after the incident. She had counsel present, who I came to understand was her husband, Vincent Gambini. She advised me during that interview that she was not present at the protest that day. She said she was at home when it occurred, but she was not able to provide us with an alibi.
As a result of your investigation, did you recommend any charges with respect to Ms. Gambini?
Based on our investigation, our witness interviews, and our understanding of the tweets, we referred the case to the district attorney's office for charges to be brought under the mob action statute.
Do you have an understanding as to whether those charges were actually brought by the district attorney?
My understanding is charges were brought and Ms. Gambini pled guilty.
Thank you, Officer Lynn. That's all the questions I have.
Thank you.
Cross-examination.
Thank you.
Mr. Lynn, you look familiar.
Likewise.
I'll be brief.
Dressed up today.
I can see that. I took a picture. To sum this up, you received a call with your partner about 4:08. You got to the scene at 4:21, so you were there quickly in 13 minutes. Is that right?
That sounds right.
Okay. And you were told in the call that there was a group of unruly protesters outside the premises that were threatening customers and that were trespassing. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so when you got there, you already told us there were no protesters outside, right?
We did not visually see any protesters.
And in fact, there were no customers outside either when you got there, right?
That is correct.
And then you went inside and saw Miss Willis, the manager, or actually the person who made the phone call, right?
Yep.
And inside there were no protesters and there were no customers, right?
There were customers inside.
Okay.
One who was injured from the fallen ceiling panel, and there were protesters on the roof.
But nobody was inside, right?
But not that we saw.
Okay. You went up the staircase, made it to the roof. As you said, you found 4 protesters up there. Everyone had masks on with pictures of skulls on, etc., right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. They were wearing bandanas as well, and you placed them under arrest.
We did place them
And
under
you
arrest.
removed their masks so that you could see them, right? And
So we could identify them.
could identify them. 3 women, 1 man, right?
3 females, 1 male.
And I think we've been over this, or we was over this in direct, but you saw or you were present earlier with when Miss Gambini testified, and she's sitting over the courtroom behind me. She wasn't one of those women, right?
I did not identify her as one of the protesters there that day.
Okay. Of the 4 protesters, and I think you started on, you mentioned this already, Mr. Macchio and Miss Adams, those are the 2 difficult ones, right? They were the most unruly, if you had to say.
That's right.
The Greystone sisters, I think you used that term, they were largely quiet. They appeared remorseful at the point in time. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. You asked the 4 protesters if any more of them were present, before that with them. Is there any more protesters in addition to the 4 of them, right?
That's right.
Okay. And Miss Greystone at that point in time said, nope, this is it. This is the 4 of us. There's nobody left but the 4 of us, right?
That's what she told me, yes.
Okay. And you interviewed the Greystone sisters, and I think they told you they had never met Miss Gambini before. Is that right?
When I interviewed them, that they told me they had never met her before.
Yeah. And Megan Greystone did mention that there was a woman with blonde hair that was in the group. Is that right?
She told us there was a woman with blonde hair with a deep voice in a Brooklyn accent.
Yes. And you saw Miss Gambini testify today, right?
I did.
And you see her over there over my left shoulder, right?
I do.
What color hair does she have?
She has black hair.
Okay. There's no video surveillance of Miss Gambini on the premises on June 17th of 2022.
All the protesters were in masks, so the surveillance videos.
You didn't answer my question. Is there any video surveillance showing Miss Gambini at the premises on June 17th, 2022?
The surveillance shows several protesters in masks. There is no conclusive video showing Miss Gambini there that day.
Thank you. There's no photographs of Miss Gambini at the premises on June 17th, 2022.
Not that I'm aware of.
Miss Willis, the manager who made the phone call, you came to understand that she worked with Miss Gambini for some period of time. Is that right?
I came to understand that, yes.
Yes. She told you, in fact, that she had worked with Miss Gambini,
Yes.
I believe. Did Miss Willis identify Miss Gambino as one of the protesters?
Ms. Willis did not identify any protesters.
Okay. And she didn't identify Miss Gambino. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Now, 4 days later, on June 21st, according to your police report, she came in voluntarily to sit down and talk with you. Is that correct?
Ms. Gambini did, yes.
Okay. And she denied being at the protest. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. She said she was at home.
She did.
Okay. And according to your report, to sum it all up, at the bottom of page 4, you wrote, I should say typed, there's no ability to place Mona Lisa Gambino at the scene. Is that correct?
That's what my report says.
You disagree with what your report says?
I personally had no ability to place her at the scene. I was informed from Ms. Adams that she was present at the scene.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
All right, can this witness be excused?
Yes.
Thank you, officer. Thank you for your service.
May I leave you?
You may. All right. Any further evidence on the behalf of the defense?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Timing-wise, do we have preparations for closings here? Or
Take a break before closing?
that's perfectly fine. All right, let's take 5 members of the jury. We'll be back ready for closing.